Margaret wiped down the counter for what felt like the 100th time that evening. At 58, her feet ached more than they used to, but she still loved working at Riverside Cafe. The old brick building with its tall windows had been part of the neighborhood for decades, just like her. She glanced at the clock. Nearly closing time. The winter sun was already setting, casting long shadows through those big windows that looked out onto the quiet street. That's when she noticed him. A man stood outside, maybe in his early 30s, with dark hair and stubble covering his face. His jacket was worn and dirty, torn at the sleeves. He stared through the window at the warmth inside, his breath making little clouds in the cold air. Margaret had seen that look before: hunger, loneliness, the kind that goes deeper than just an empty stomach. She walked to the door and opened it. The cold rushed in. "Come inside," she said gently. "It's too cold out here." The man looked surprised. I don't have any money, ma'am." "I didn't ask if you did. Come on now before we both freeze." He hesitated, then stepped inside. Margaret led him to a corner table, away from the few remaining customers. "What's your name?" she asked. "David," he said quietly, looking down at his hands. "Well, David, I'm Margaret. How about some coffee and a hot meal?" His eyes filled with tears. "I can't pay you," Margaret smiled, the kind of smile that held years of kindness in it. "Did I ask you to?" She brought him coffee, then soup, a sandwich, and a slice of apple pie. David ate slowly, savoring every bite like it was the finest meal he'd ever had. Margaret watched from behind the counter, thinking about her own son, somewhere out west, who she hadn't seen in 2 years. "Why did you help me?" David asked when she came to refill his coffee. Margaret sat down across from him. "Because we're all just one bad day away from needing help ourselves. My late husband used to say that kindness doesn't cost us anything, but it might mean everything to someone else." David nodded slowly. "I used to have a good life. A business, a home. Then I made some bad choices. Lost everything. We all make mistakes," Margaret said. "What matters is what we do next." When it was time to leave, David stood at the door. "Thank you, Margaret. I won't forget this. You take care of yourself." "David." She watched him disappear into the night, then locked up and went home to her small apartment. The next morning, Margaret arrived at the cafe like always. She unlocked the door, turned on the lights, and started the coffee machines. It was her routine, her meditation. Around mid-morning, the bell above the door chimed. Margaret looked up from wiping tables. It was David, but not the David from yesterday. This man wore a beautiful navy suit, perfectly tailored. His hair was cut and styled. His face was clean-shaven. He wore a watch that caught the morning light. The only thing that was the same were his eyes, those kind, grateful eyes. Margaret nearly dropped her cleaning cloth. "David?" she whispered. He smiled and walked toward her. Several customers turned to look. "Hello, Margaret. I don't understand." "You look, I know. I need to explain." He gestured to a table. "May I?" They sat down, and David took a breath. "I wasn't lying yesterday. I did lose everything, but that was 5 years ago. Since then, I've been slowly rebuilding. Last year, I started a small tech company. It grew faster than I expected. Now I have 14 employees and offices downtown." Margaret shook her head, confused. "But yesterday you were homeless?" "Yes. Once a month, I spend 24 hours living on the streets. No money, no phone, no safety net. I do it to remember where I came from, to stay humble, to understand what it's like for people who don't have what I have now." Tears filled Margaret's eyes. David continued. "Most people ignore me. Some are cruel. Yesterday, I was ready to give up on people altogether. Then you opened that door. You didn't just give me food, Margaret. You gave me dignity. You sat with me. You listened." He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. "I own the building next door, the old bookstore that's been empty for 2 years. I want you to have it." "What?" Margaret's hands trembled. "Open your own place. A cafe, a restaurant, whatever you dream of. It's yours, free and clear. I'll handle all the renovation costs, too." Margaret couldn't speak. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "David, I can't accept this. It's too much." He took her hand gently. "My mother was a waitress. She worked 3 jobs to raise me after my father left. She died before I could pay her back for everything she sacrificed. Let me honor her memory by helping you. Margaret looked at this young man, remembering her own struggles, her own dreams she'd put aside. "I always wanted my own place," she whispered. "Somewhere warm and welcoming. Where everyone feels at home, then make it happen. You have the heart for it." "I saw that yesterday." 6 months later, Margaret's place opened next door to Riverside Cafe. It had soft lighting, comfortable chairs, and a menu full of home-cooked meals. But more than that, it had something special. On the wall by the entrance was a sign. "If you're hungry and can't pay, order the David Special. No questions asked." Margaret, now 62 and finally running her own business, made sure no one ever went hungry at her door. And sometimes, late in the evening, David would stop by. He'd sit at the counter, drink coffee, and tell Margaret about his company's latest success. But mostly, they'd talk about simpler things: family, kindness, the way one small act of compassion can change everything. "You know," Margaret said one evening, "I thought I was helping you that night." David smiled. "You did, but you changed my whole life." "No, Margaret. You changed mine first. I just returned the favor." Outside, snow began to fall gently on the street. Inside Margaret's place, it was warm. There was coffee brewing, pie in the oven, and the kind of love that only comes from people who understand that we're all in this together. Sometimes the blessings we give away come back to us. Not always in ways we expect, but always in ways we need. And that, Margaret thought as she served another customer with a warm smile, was the real miracle.